Ready? Yes. Yeah. Sign, everybody sign. Shuffling. Ready? Get better.
I like that.
All right, call to order the regular meeting of municipal council on Monday, May 29th, 2023. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Deputy Mayor Dillabaugh, I believe you have that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Smell. The municipality council approves agenda as presented.
No changes, or not errors, but no changes to the agenda. No. All right, then I will call the question then. All in favor of the agenda as presented?
Aye.
Moving on to, yeah, everybody left. Moving on, even Veronica left. Moving on to disclosure of the pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Does anyone have a disclosure to make tonight?
None by me.
Hearing none, we'll move on to delegations and presentations. And we do have one delegation and presentation tonight. It's from our financial auditors, MNP LLP. And Jamie, I forgot your last name, my apologies. Jamie Pollock, that's right. And Jamie Pollock from MNP will be doing a short presentation in regard to both the port financials and the township financials. So Jamie, you can begin.
Okay, I think most people might know who I am, but not. I'm Jamie Pollock. I'm a chartered professional accountant and partner with MNP from the terminal office. I've been involved with this audit on and off over the last 20 years, and I'm happy to be here to present the financial statement. I am going to go through the consolidated financial statement of Edwardsburg Cardinal. If there's any questions or concerns, please stop me and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. In your package, there should be the draft independent auditors report. It is like a page and a half, but I'll just read the first two paragraphs. It is addressed to the members of council, the inhabitants and ratepayers of the township of Edwardsburg Cardinal. We have audited the financial statement of the municipality, which comprised the statement of financial position as of December 31st, 2022, and the statement of financial activities, changes in net assets and cash flows for the year then ended, and notes to the financial statement, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statement presents fairly in all material respects the financial position of the municipality as of December 31st, 2022, and its in the statement of financial activities or operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with public sector accounting standards. It's a clean audit opinion. That's what we want to hear from us as your auditors. If we turn to the consolidated statement of financial position, it is consolidated as it takes in besides the township operations, it takes in the library board, your equity portion of Rideau St. Lawrence Holdings Inc., and your investment in the Port of Johnstown. On the statement of financial position is the balance sheet at December 31st, 2022. It is at a particular point in time. Your total financial assets was $61.3 million compared to $56.5 million the previous year, an increase of $400,000 for $4 million. Sorry, I can't add at this late at night. So that's the balance. Increases in cash by $660,000. And your investment in Port of Johnstown increased by $3.7 million in the previous year. Total liability is $9.3 million, an increase from 7.4, an increase in line item accounts payable rose by $876,000 at $2.1 million compared to 1.2, and that's mainly a timing of trade payables, particularly to capital projects. The other increase is the municipal debt, which is at $6.5 million, an increase of $814,000, and that's the loan proceeds coming from Infrastructure Ontario to fund the capital projects in 2022. Net financial assets, 51.9 million compared to 49.1 million. And when you add your non-financial assets, such as your tangible capital assets in your inventory, their accumulated surplus is 90.1 million and 84.8 million. So this accumulated surplus is recorded for PSAS purposes, and it's not really what we refer to as your operating surplus for the year. And I will touch base that in a moment. If we turn to the next page, the consolidated statement of financial activities, this is also known as your income statement. If you focus on the middle column compared to your budget, your revenue for the year is 12.1 million, compared to a budget of 11.3, an increase of $800,000, and most of that increase is in fees and service charges, which was over budget to be good by $100,000, and your investment income was higher than budget by $830,000, and that's due to partly the distributions of income for the Port of Johnstown in the year. Under expenses, 11.19 million in the middle column compared to budget of 11.15 million. You're just over budget by $38,000. If you work that out on a percentage basis, it would be less than 0.038%. So I think that's a very good financial management of your actual expenses compared to your budget for the year ended by 2022 by your administration. We have capital grants of 447,000 plus the township equity income from government and business enterprises of 3.8 million in a year. Majority of that from the Port of Johnstown and a small bit from Rio St. Lawrence. So your total surplus for the year for PSAS purposes on these financial statements is $5.3 million compared to a budget of 4.3 million. If you turn to the next page, where it's a change in net financial assets, the middle column, once you take the surplus for the year, we add back amortization of tangible capital assets. This is a non-cash item of 1.7, and then you deduct your acquisition of those tangible capital assets, 4,047,000 plus change in inventory brings to your increase in net financial assets of 2.8 million compared to a budget of $1.5 million. If you kind of skip over a couple pages to the schedule of tangible capital assets on there, page 5. You see the assets going down by asset types. The second last line of the net book value, and from the right hand side, the second last number is the net book value of those assets at 37.9 million compared to 35.6 million, an increase of 2.3 million from the previous year. You had an addition of 4 million, which 2.4 went to roads and 985,000 went to vehicles and equipment, and amortization expense of 1.7. One kind of factor when I look at these tangible capital assets is the net book value in relation to the total cost. So when you took your net book value of 37 million compared to the total cost of 78, it works out to 48%. So you can just have, use just over half of the useful life of its assets, so you got less than half of the useful life left to go on an overall basis. And as you put more money into your tangible capital assets, we prefer to see that balance over 50%, and that should occur in the next couple of years based on your asset and plan. We always like to see the additions being higher than the amortization, with those users of the financial statement that you are putting more money and what's being amortized into your infrastructure assets. If you turn to page 7, which is the schedule of accumulated surplus, the top part is your operating surpluses. The main line is the investment in the Port of Johnstown, 48.4 million. The first line is 0 for operating surplus, but any operating surplus that you did have for 2022 was already reallocated to its reserves or reserve funds, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. Talking about reserves and reserve funds, your reserve balance was 3.4 million compared to 3.6 million from the previous year, a decrease of $187,000. But your reserve funds at the end of the year is 6.5 million compared to 5.6, an increase of $907,000. Most of that increase was under the water and sewer and funds set aside in the industrial park into a GIC investment, but still for the industrial park. Usage and then the dedicated capital increased by $620,000 in a year. So overall reserves and reserve funds went up by $720,000 or 7.8%. So your total balance is just under 10 million at 9.9 and 9.2 with the previous year's total balance. Once you add your investment in tangible capital assets, that's the related debt, the total accumulated surplus of 90.1 million compared to 84.8, an increase of 5.3 million, which is your annual surplus on the income statement, or a 6.1% increase. If we just go through the notes of the financial statements and just highlight some of the key items. If you go to note 5 on page 17, this is the deferred revenue for the obligatory reserve funds. If you look at the federal gas tax, you receive $225,000 a year. It was utilized in 2022. My understanding, it will be utilized in 2023. So your deferred revenue is up by that amount of grant, plus an interest earned at the end of the year of $349,000. Note 6 is the municipal debt. The only new item is the loan from Infrastructure Ontario, which is the second line from the bottom of just over $1 million. There's still a couple more draws to occur on that in 2023. It is for the completion of capital projects from 2022 into 2023, and that's really ventured by the end of the 2023 fiscal year. The total debt 6.5 million compared to 5.6 million the previous year. If we kind of turn to page 20, we talk about the operating and waterworks and sewer operation surplus with the deficit. If you look right to the last line, we have transfer reserve of $55,779. That is your surplus for the year, and that surplus was already being allocated to the working capital reserve at December 31st, 2022. The second line from the bottom is your net water and sewer surplus, which was transferred to the appropriate reserve fund. That surplus for the year was $14,038. So out of that 14,000 was transferred to the special water reserve fund, 16,000 to the low left reserve fund, 42,000 to the industrial park water reserve fund, and 8,100 to the Cardinal wastewater reserve fund, where there was some deficit that pulled that balance down from the Cardinal water reserve fund this year. If we go to the 5-year financial review, we have the financial activities in thousands over the last 5 years. You can see your net income under surplus for the year has increased in the first part steadily from 3.7 million to 5.2 million at the end of for 2022. When we look at your property taxes have increased overall for the school boards. The upper tier in your portion went from 10.3 million in 2018 to 12.2 in 2022. Works out to an annualized increase of 3.7%. Which sounds like the average increase in inflation over those 5 years. So the taxation dollars are being raised to cover off the inflated cost of expenses over those 5 years. If we go to the next page, the taxable assessment, that also rose on an annual basis of 3.5%. So what that tells me is the auditor that any increase in taxation revenue is all coming from the increase in the taxable assessment and growth, and not necessarily through your increase in tax rates. Any increase in taxation revenue is coming from impact values, not necessarily coming from the municipality. We have some financial indicators. Tax revenues is presented as own and total levy have not changed in the last couple of years. Municipal debt has grown, but that is funds key infrastructure projects with municipal debt charges of $500,000. Financial assets to liability, very strong at 6.5. The next line excludes municipal debt, so when you kind of look at your working capital ratio, which is 4.3 to 1, and that's a very good ratio to have with the kind of golden rule of thumb for private businesses and public companies is 2 to 1. Municipal debt to tangible capital assets, that grows because of the debt at 17%. One thing I think you have good ratio is the flexibility of debt charges to total operating revenue of 4.1% and to total taxable assessment of 1.25%. Anything under 10% indicates that you're carrying very low debt and not very leveraged, which is a good thing with low debt charges as a percentage of your operating revenue. On ability, and this is a kind of area of concern, and it's not surprising if you know what the province is doing, is that the amount of operating grants coming from the ministry or the federal government is declining each year, where the total for 2022 is 6.15%. For operating grants, and when you take in the capital grants as well as the total revenues, that percentage is decreasing every year. So what that indicates that if you're going to undertake any significant capital projects in future years, it's going to be the responsibility of the municipality to set funds aside and pay for any of those projects, because those capital grants may not be there. But that's something that always keep in mind, that if we were going to take those capital projects, that municipality will have to be ready. Reserve coverage, total reserve and reserve funds 9.9 million, with a comparison to operating expenses of 89%. Our range is always 25 to 50%, so you have plenty of reserves and reserve funds set aside if required by any unexpected operating expenses. And your reserves for working capital, we always like to see that about 1 to 1, where you are at 3.4%. That's a very good percentage. That means for every dollar of working capital, you have $3 and $4 of that in your reserve and reserve funds. So that is when I look at that, it indicates that we're in a very good financial position. And it's showing that based on the reserve and reserve funds that they are holding to under $10 million. So you had a small surplus for the year of $55,000. You did allocate everything you wanted to your reserve and reserve funds based on your budget for 2022, and you're still in very good financial shape. That is my report to council and in administration for the year ended December 31st, 2022.
Great. Thank you, Jamie, for the presentation regarding the report of the financial statements. I think it's worth noting that the CAO, the treasurer, the deputy mayor, and myself all met in advance of tonight's council meeting to just sort of for you to give us a pre-presentation and address any of the concerns that we might have with the audit and the statements before the presentation tonight. So I'm going to open it to the members of the table if they have any questions in regard to the audit statements. Yeah. Okay. So start on the side, working the way across.
I mean, I think it was another strong year. We're looking good on the books, and you know, it looks a lot like we had really sort of preliminary back in March. So it's good.
No, I didn't. Thanks.
No comments. Good. I have comments that I'll make later on when we're in that part of the actual meeting, but I'll just say thank you, Jamie, for the hard work, and for the good work and for the, openness and the ability to answer the questions that we put forward and for allowing us to have an open and frank discussion with you, regarding the statement. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you for having me tonight and, meeting you and the deputy mayor. And I just want to say a big thanks to Sean and David and their accounting team for their great cooperation and working with them. And we look forward to working with them again next year. And of course, easier cooperation makes our job easier as well. And we were in the early March and there was very little change in the numbers that Sean has presented to us. So that's good that we'll have very few journal entries and putting this report together. It's simpler than dealing with some other municipalities. So I thank you for that.
Well, it's certainly worth noting in that, again, it's something I'll comment on later on at that time, but there's very few recommendations for change if you read through the statement, right? There's very, very small amounts and changes that with our the size of our team that we really can't, we can't do a whole lot better. So
limited issues we brought up before in previous years, and we just hit them again, but the management responsive and because of the side, we do have some limited segregation duties, but there is some controls to address it, but some it is what it is.
Yeah. All right. So I guess thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Awesome. All right, so with that, I believe to the deputy clerk, we're on to number 5, correct? And so number 5 is consent agenda. So any items that are listed under consent agenda are considered routine and no longer require a further discussion and are enacted all in one motion. The exception to this rule is that any member may request that one or more items be pulled for discussion and voted on and discussed separately. So I guess I'll ask that question. Does anyone, everyone's had the opportunity to read this over the weekend. You had the opportunity to have things pulled from consent agenda. Are there any concerns there? Does anyone want any items pulled for further discussion? Are you comfortable with items the way they are? Oh, that's good. Everyone is good. Deputy, good. Okay. So then the recommendation, I think you will read the no, sorry, it's Councillor Smale then I believe it has that recommendation. If you would bring that recommendation forward, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Joe Martel that the municipality receives and approves the following consent agenda items as presented. Regular council, April 24th, 2023. Special council, May 8th, 2023. Public Library Board, March 28th, 2023. Port Management Committee, April 17th, 2023. Public meeting, proposed amendments to building permit fee schedule, April 24th, 2023. Committee of the Whole, Community Development, May 1st, 2023. Committee of the Whole, Administration and Operations, May 8th, 2023. Purchase file hold OCR mod 5-month banners and flag request, 2023 PSAB budget. And I'm not sure how to say that word, people, but addendum, and 2022 year-end township surplus, amending the Spencer Lagoon environmental compliance approval.
Thank you. Thank you. So once again, I will remind all members that they still have the opportunity to yank any of these, to take them out for further discussion. They've all been discussed. They've all been reviewed at the committee levels. So you still have one last opportunity to pull this out for further discussion if anyone would choose to do so. So seeing solid no's, then if there is no discussion on this, so then I will call the question. All in favor? Unanimous. The efficiency. All right, so then that jumps us, if you're following along, to item 9F. Which would be the Port of Johnstown tender award for electrical work for the bin automation project number 300-507. And I believe Councillor Ward, you have that item.
I do, moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Joe Martell. The municipal council award the electrical work for the bin automation project number 300-507 to Industrial Contracting Solutions Inc. in the amount of $374,165, excluding HST, with a 15% contingency, and to authorize the port general manager to execute the purchase order on behalf of the township and port, as recommended by the Port Management Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. So further discussion, this was discussed at Port Management Committee. The reason that it's coming back to council is because the amount is outside of the budgeted approval number. It's coming in higher than what it originally was authorized for, so it has to come back to council for approval because it's outside of that budget. Is there further discussion? Does anyone have any comments on the automated bin valve project or before we call it?
I mean, it's unfortunate that it's gone up so much, but I mean, it is a project that that the automation will help as well too, for safety of the people in the port, as well as automating it to make us open for more hours. I think it's probably a good business decision regardless, but it is unfortunate, like I said, that it's higher than we expected. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think I will somewhat echo those comments that it is in over budget. My only hope is that when we were at council or at committee on last Wednesday, we brought up the possibility of grant funding that this specifically would fall under I think it was the ACT first intake, and I certainly would encourage the staff at the port to try to offset some of these possible high costs with an application for funding on behalf of that project. So those are my comments. Further comments from anyone? Questions, debate? None. All right, call the question then. All in favor? So we are on to item 9G, which is the 2022 financial statements consolidated. Councilor Martell, I believe you have that item.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Walter Smale. Whereas the mayor and deputy mayor met with the external auditors MNP LLP for the township of Edwardsburg Cardinal and the Port of Johnstown. And whereas MNP LPP provided a review of the management representation responsibility letter, the independent auditor's report, the audit findings report, and the 2022 draft consolidated financial statements for the townships of Edwardsburg Cardinal and Port of Johnstown. Now therefore be it resolved that the municipal council receives the audit findings report and approves the 2022 consolidated financial statements for the township of Edwardsburg Cardinal as provided by MNP LLP.
Thank you very much. All right, so we have had a very fulsome discussion of the financial statements today with the auditor before the meeting. We've had a presentation from him here as well. Is there further discussion on the financial statements, comments, or?
I would just like to thank the people at that table, making it so easy for people this table to work here. Thank you.
Said, Councilor Smale, anything? Deputy Mayor? Oh, we're good. Thank you, Chris.
No, I mean, I think the auditor touched on it. It's, it's a good thing that we're a nice, small, agile organization. It just unfortunately means that sometimes that we don't have layers of people who can do various tasks, but I think that's well covered, and You know, it seems like it's a low risk anyways to have it, but I think it's worth noting with that. But part of the only thing they talked about was the fact that we didn't have layers of management, if you will, or some cash side of the road. I think that is what it is, and I don't think it's a big risk for us from, how much money comes in that front door versus other things, so.
So I will echo, I think, what Councillor Ward is saying, and definitely what the others at the table think, especially Mr. Martell. And in my notes, I specifically would like to applaud staff. And I think our previous council, as well as our previous treasurer and our new treasurer, and the entire financial department for being so diligent in the understanding of the finances and how not only we create revenue, but how we spend as well. We haven't created a spending problem. We've been very strong, and I think staff needs to be applauded for the great work that they do. And they, like Councillor Martell said, they do make the job quite easy for those of us up at the table. So. All right, so now I do have to call the question, though, don't I? So, all in favor? Too bad if that one was a 3-2. All right, so moving on to item H, which is the 2022 Port of Johnstown audited financial statements, and Deputy Mayor Dillabaugh, I believe you have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Smell. Whereas the Port Management Committee received and reviewed the auditor's finding report on the Port of Johnstown financial statement during the regular meeting held on May 23rd, 2023. Now therefore be resolved, the municipality council receives the audit finding report and approves the 2022 financial statement for the Port of Johnstown as provided by MNP LLP.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. All right, comments or debate, anything about this at all? I'll start this at this time.
Sure, so I mean, I think it's the same comment, it comes down to the smaller staff, I do think there's, I don't know, I mean, not from a person perspective, but I do think that there's a bit more risk there because it is more of a capital business as well on that front, but it would be nice to see if we could get some sort of way to resolve, let's say we do have an extra layer in there as far as the handling of money and things like that go to bills, but but again, otherwise it seems like it was everyone seemed pretty in order there as well with a few minor journal entries, and so I think a good job from the court staff as well on doing that. So good comment. Yeah.
Yeah, no, went through it. It's good that the staff of the port was working with our auditors, and I was very, very happy. Some of the questions I had for the auditors, the answer I got, so I'm very pleased. Thank you.
I'm very pleased with my agree totally with Councilor Ward.
Yeah. And those same statements, I think, going through month to month and seeing, the operations reports, the way that the finances are presented to us, leave us feeling with a very, very clean and clear mind when it comes to that statement. So same words to both Rhonda, code at the port, and the staff there that handle the finances and help keep the committee up to date. I would also be wrong if I didn't say thank you to the previous council and to all of the committee members, both present and past, for helping ensure that we don't overspend there, and and keep it managed really, really well. They do a fantastic job. So well done to all involved there as well. All right, so I guess I will call the question. No further comments then. All in favor? Yeah. Okay. I think before I proceed, I just have a question and I. On the wording for this motion, sorry, my apologies. And I know this is the wording that we passed at the Port Management Committee. We removed reviews and approves. Should we have inserted reviews and approves back into this? And if so, we probably need to reconsider the vote we just made and amend this motion. My apologies for not noticing that in advance.
So.
Or is that later?
Well, Mr. Mayor, it is, to receive the audit plan for it doesn't prove the difference between the two.
So we're good with the way that it's written and, okay, okay, I just, when I flipped my page, I was like, ah, shoot, we had switched that and, okay, but as long as the wording is good, then we're good, okay.
For the first part of your.
I saw received.
We've been reviewed.
Yeah, so that takes care of approves and
Council is receiving and. They're approving.
approving it by, okay, good, okay, so we've handled that then, all right. So now we are on to the item I, proposed new provincial policy statement. Comments, and that would be Councillor Ward, I believe.
Yep, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Joe Martell, I believe it is. Sorry. Municipal Council receives the proposed new provincial planning statement report, authorizes the mayor to sign the attached letter and directs staff to submit the comment letter to the province of Ontario through the Environmental Registry of Ontario, ERO, prior to the June 5th, 2023 deadline.
Thank you very much. All right, this one's probably going to require a little bit of discussion, I think. So, does any like to comments first before we begin?
I still not have truthfully my head wrapped around Bill. So it's a real, and it's a bill that's very important for us as a municipality that we're in. So it's all with agriculture areas and so on. So yeah, it's a topic to to say receive the proposed new provincial planning state. I just don't have my head wrapped around it.
Well, I think it's difficult to, I think you might be the only one in the province who would have their head completely wrapped around it. If you understood it, it's an enormous bill with a ton of implications. So, but I think what we're trying to do with this is to address some of the key changes that affect us so that we can comment on that policy statement. So they're, like rural lot severances, partial service connections, things like that. Those are things that the bigger things that we recognize in the policy statement that we're already working. We just, we want to make sure that they get it, right. So, so there, continue down the table then further. Is there any discussion from that end of the table at all?
Maybe you just said, or because I was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a headache.
Yeah, I think one thing worth noting with it, and we've discussed it at the United Counties table, and we had a planner bring forward a plan of action, and all of the mayors around the table respected the report that came forward, but disagreed with the report as mayors. And generally speaking, most of, or all of, actually, it was a unanimous vote of the mayors were the report that was going to go in from county staff was going to be a negative report saying we don't want the changes and the vote that took place was we do want growth, we do want changes, and we do think that this reflects respectful need, and it encouraged individual municipalities to make sure that they made comments respective of issues in their areas. So I think it's important that we do make a note on a few of these changes. And that we do offer, well, at least the very minimum, I think we need to do is the partial services letter, but I'm hopeful to get a little more discussion. So
Well, we're gonna talk about very briefly today, is that the plan? Because,
no, submissions are June the 5th. So
yeah, I know, that's fair. No, I mean, and I don't have anything to submit. I just, the idea that the scope of one of the main thrusts of the PP change is about, increasing growth, if you will, in the golden horseshoe area of Ontario. I find it somewhat astounding, to be honest, because I do think we have a better quality of life out here. We have more, we can have broader and more diverse lifestyle here. Perfectly, and I quite enjoy it. So it's kind of odd that that's the case, but I like the things that they're doing in here as far as giving us more flexibility on, with regards to housing and being able to use more of our property potentially. And I think we've already started to have that conversation ourselves. It's of this, but it was something that we all sort of went on, campaigned on, was trying to encourage a little bit of growth in the area. So I mean, I don't have a lot of issues with it, and I think our response looks pretty good, to be honest. But,
yeah, no, I think that sums it up really well. I will note, and it was in and I just want to refer this question to staff. In our United Counties discussion, the implication of Bill 97 was that we were not allowed to be more restrictive than what Bill 97 was. So meaning that that was whatever the changes to the PPS, provincial policy statement, are, we're not allowed to create rules that are more restrictive. Ultimately, if somebody applies for it and we have more restriction in there, they'll be approved at the next level. Is that understanding's correct?
Mr. Mayor, yes, so yes, the local policy cannot be more restrictive.
Than what the PPS actually is, right? So the PPS would be the document.
Because everything in that plan.
So then we would anticipate an official plan amendment then from the United Counties that would align its policies to the new PPS, which would then in turn cause us to amend our OPs to align with the counties again. Am I correct?
Yes, if and when the new provincial policy statement comes, it will have a chain reaction with respect to commitments to come in line with that higher.
So just a planning question, one more then. So then ultimately, I mean, it did put the planning sort of back in local hands, as Councillor Hoare said, in the past, but this ultimately eliminates the authority at the United Counties level to an extent, if the minimum level that it can be is the provincial policy statement. As long as ROP aligns with the provincial policy statement, then they have no choice but to approve.
Right, 100%. It is probably better served to have. We do have our plan rescheduled for Monday night.
Okay.
And then with respect to the report that's being actually maybe worthwhile just to see that clearly.
And if we get that clarity from then, we'll still be able to submit comments based off of that in time for a June 5th deadline. My concerns are that I want our concerns heard by the province, whether they're supportive or not supportive. by that June 5th deadline. I think it's important that either way that we make a submission.
Yes, it's very, and actually, the draft here is sort of. In front of council tonight is for that submission.
Right. So in regard to that, I'm personally, I think the draft letter summarizes well partial servicing, correct? Correct. But it doesn't go past partial servicing though, does it?
No, the primary focus of that letter is partial servicing.
Okay,
There were a couple areas within the main body of the report, and it was suggested that council may want to incorporate that. And I said sort of really in formal discussion on the table on some of those areas. We didn't want to include that in the draft. We know that servicing was
servicing was, I think, you know, from recollection of that, I think there was broad support for rural lot size, for the lot size changes, things. Some of those other changes, you know, as well. I'm not sure that we looked at it separately, rural versus agricultural lot changes. I
think, yeah, I would say that the provides more flexibility. So some of that, some of the we'll call it nuts and bolts with respect to that lot size will come into effect with their own lots after that.
right. And they can't be more, again, going back to the policy statement, they will not allow us to be more restrictive than what's in the policy statement.
Correct. You have to have a lane. That's really that plan.
Okay, so then I'm going to suggest this to the folks at the table then. So I would suggest then that our letter incorporate expressing the general approval to the changes of the provincial policy statement. But I think the one thing that for me that's missing from the provincial policy statement, like generally speaking, I think the nuts and bolts will get handled by zoning bylaw and by those other parts. But I think, you know, an important and imperative that we say that through our comments, we've outlined very thoroughly the changes we want for partial servicing. But broadly, when we look at the changes that they suggested for agricultural areas and rural, I think it's more or less what we've discussed at committee level. I think it represents it fairly well. So I would support a letter that expresses the general approval of the changes to the PPS. The only thing is that I'm concerned about is that it does leave out, there is no natural heritage select section of that included with PPS. It has been stated that it will, or it is anticipated that it'll be added to the PPS at a later date. So I mean, there is a little bit of concern that, you know, out of respect, I mean, we have the rivers, we have the forests, we have aggregate, we have agricultural lands there, you know, there is the natural heritage of the areas. There's certainly, you know, concern in how that change would happen, but I'd still like to see the group endorse at least a letter approving these. We've been asking for these changes now for a while. And here they are. So I'd say let's do that. I think the planner outlined the changes fantastically that really need to happen to that partial servicing to make it address the situation that we have and many others have around us as well. So I'd like to endorse that letter, but I'd like to take it a little step further and just say, generally speaking, the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal endorses the provincial changes to the policy statement. I'm hoping they'll get that support around the table.
And so for week, June 5th, by the way, is next Monday, which is our CBC meeting, so it has to be done today. Right? So well, that's what you put into that has to be done. Yeah, absolutely.
So we have a planner next week coming, but we have to have this letter in before we have the plan.
Yeah, well, I think through in all fairness, with Novatech itself, that thing isn't going to make an official comment. Retro policy statement. We have conversations with Novatech to make sure that our understanding in some of those areas is correct, and therefore develop the letter based on what we understood the committee to want and in that regard.
So what I think, what I'm asking for is that letter just be amended to include that we generally, as council, not as the planner speaking, but as council, so in addition to that letter, that generally speaking, we support we endorse and support the changes to the PPS. And I'm looking for, that support from the table to make that change. We need to give that direction to make that change. And then if that change is made, we can amend. How would we do that tonight to get that in for June the 5th?
I think if there is general consensus with respect to sort of the addition to that letter, but I think all we would do for the motion would be as amended with respect to the draft letter as amended.
Okay.
I think we can move that basically to staff to do that. Fine, once we have general wording that.
Right, and then I just have to sign off.
And then
as
you
mayor.
just.
Okay, so can I do this then? So I think there's two possibilities here. One, we endorse, I mean, at the very minimum that we can do, I believe, is endorse the partial services change. We need, as a group, we've discussed this, we need it, we have a project that this applies directly to. I think the submission on that part is extremely valuable. The other part we don't have to do. I just think that every time we get the opportunity to encourage the changes that we've been discussing at our table, we should grab that and take it. So it doesn't come along to this document. These types of changes tend to be more restrictive than open, and this one seems to be open to create the kind of change we've been talking about. So I think there's two things to support here. One is the original letter, and then if you can't get past just supporting the original letter, then it died. Then we'll do the original letter. But I prefer that we did in an amended letter.
I'll support the amendment, by the way.
And when are you amending?
So just the addition that we express general support or general approval for the changes to the PPS.
Okay. And so it's gonna be the same as what the recommendation is here, except for of the province of Ontario, right? We're gonna agree on the recommendation as presented here. Is that right?
No, it's going to amend the letter, right? Because the letter is only in regard, if you I could go through that, the letter is, it only really concerns the connection to partial services. It doesn't address lot sizes, it doesn't address the other stuff. So it's not written into the letter. So, but generally speaking, through the changes to the policy statement, they change the way that rural lot sizes are, they change the way that agricultural evidences work.
Yeah.
So if we generally support or express support for the general
Bill 97 and
yeah, we just need to add into that letter that we express support for the general approval of the proposed changes to the PPS.
right. Okay.
You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Councilor Smale?
Yes.
Councilor Natchez?
Yeah, when you read this, a lot of it is very reflective to a couple of meetings ago, it could have been written here. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would say the last part that I think we should add though, and this is, it's not a negative. But I do think that we should also reflect our concern that natural heritage section hasn't been added yet, and that we would like, I know that it's anticipated at a later date, but I think when we get the opportunity and we're encouraged to comment to the ERO, that we should express concern or not hesitation, but just concern until we see how it affects our natural heritage. So can I get nodding heads on that? Yeah, so that's unanimous for that as well. And so we'll leave that to staff to compose those wishes, and then I will sign as mayor on behalf of council, correct? And then we'll get it submitted by June the 5th. Okay, so what do we move for a motion then? The one that's on the floor, or do we need to amend that motion? Yeah, it's still.
Okay, so
So it would mean. That municipal council received the proposed new provincial policy planning statement report. Authorizes the mayor to sign the attached letter as amended. And directs staff to submit the comment to the letter to the province of Ontario. Given the environmental Ministry of Ontario, we are voted prior to June 5th.
That sounds perfect. Before we vote on it, though, Councillor Ward.
And my concerns, it's not concerns, but this, how all this would come to fruition. And maybe it's part of the conversation for next week. But if there's any implication that we have to do something quick or anything about it, I just want to make sure that that conversation if needed. So, again, with say the agricultural side of it, they talk about more lots than we do today. Right now, we put, if you sever off your residence from your agricultural lot, there is no more residential use on that. Do we have to do something automatically right away, or is this just override?
It actually changes, and it'll allow you 4 agricultural severances as of January 21st, 2020.
And that's just automatic. We don't, so what I'm saying is.
Can't be any more strict than that, but it has to be for general agricultural use.
Fair enough, and it does not, it does allow us to also go back into the past on where there's been decisions on certain properties and be able to using the new
Starts new on
January 1st.
January.
Okay, so that's good. I just wanted to make sure I understood that. It's
It'll allow small family farms to be able to create a severance to keep family members. On the farm, without having to go and buy a farm down the road, or buy 12 lanes over, or maybe even outside of municipalities, they'll be able to build a home.
Yeah, no, my second part question was actually more about possible small subdivision areas that I was talking about. That's fine. Okay,
Yeah, that one applies more to the rural
That-
severance, but it actually encourages not the new one, so. Yeah, it's a good setup. Okay, so comfortable? Yeah, everyone? Good. All right, so then I will, if there's no further debate, then I will call the question on the letter then, all the amended letter, all in favor? Unanimous. This one should be simple. Item J, which is the temporary road closure request for the soapbox derby. Councillor Smale. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. I have it myself and seconded by Councilor Joe Martell. Approve the request for partial closure of Gooden Road between civic addresses 2927-3012 on June 24th, 2023, between the hours of 9 AM and 1 PM. For the Optimus Club Soapbox Derby, and direct staff to supply barricades and work with the Optimus Club to ensure notification is provided to affect residents and emergency services.
thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so the partial closure of Gooden Road for the soapbox. So I'm surprised that there isn't anything on this that requires the deputy mayor to stay out of the derby cars.
Stop it. I was just saying, I'm getting all excited. I marked it in my calendar.
Wheels will be like,
No, I'm just gonna participate this year. Watch.
that certainly made it fun last year. All right, is there further debate or discussion or anything that anyone would like to say in regard to the soapbox derby?
Do we have pictures from last year?
We do, we will share them with Councilor Smith. Deputy?
Wish we could find some money maybe next year to repave that one section.
No argument for myself on that one, and I do think I really appreciate all the work the Optimist Club is going through to make my birthday pretty good, so. Good stuff. Great work.
Maybe they'll let you ride.
Maybe they will.
I will say in attendance for this last year, it was a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, very well attended, and the Optimist Club continues to deliver time and time again. So well done to all involved. And I will call the question. All in favor? Road closure. It may be approved. It sounded like there was 3 votes. Discuss that, yeah. All right, item K, 9K, the use of unopened road allowance. Request on Cedar and Water Street, and then Councilor Martel, you have that item.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wallace Mail, that the municipal council grant permission for the applicant to place fill material on the unopened road allowance portion to significantly gain access to the vacant lot for placement of additional fill material.
Thank you, Councilor Martel. Discussion? Chris?
No, I mean, I had noticed that during the campaign last year, and I was kind of wondering what the arrangement was around that, so. Anyway, no, I might support this. This is fun.
Okay, Deputy?
Yeah, I can talk on this one. This has been going on for 6-7 months now, and now it just started small. And now it's, as we can see, it's getting bigger and bigger. This is, I think, at the end of the day, a neighbor dispute. Neighbors not getting along with neighbors, but they had this particular family who's asking for permission to grant permission. You know, has went to us several times asking for help, and we kind of just let it slide by. Now we got the Ministry of Environment involved, checking their land, and after it gets done, they're going to come back and do another check. And that piece of property, I hope it doesn't go any further than what it is. That piece of property was our property at one time, the township. So I guess the bottom line is that I think we could have prevented this from going this far if we handle it a little different. And I hope this is sort of like a little lesson.
Thank you, Deputy. Councilor Smith?
I agree to that. I agree with Steve.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, to staff, no precedent being set here. We're allowing a resident to make improvements on the road allowance, but there's no responsibility on our part. We have said that in the letter, right? So we're allowing a resident, we're granting permission of a resident or the applicant to place fill material on the unopened road allowance. Is that something we normally do?
If there's a resident that's looking to improve a portion of allowance, through that policy, typically it requires council approval. Because it's such a small area, I'm not necessarily sure that we need to get full scope of an agreement, but you know, I think that I would partially agree with some of the comments that the mayor made. However, I think by following the process initially from the start, it may not ended up where it was. I think this would be appropriate to make sure that you're dotting the I's and crossing the T's with respect to that, even though it's a very small portion. It's sort of at the end of the road, sort of on Cedar Street and Water Street. It's very minor, but I think some of those minor items end up quickly to spiral into neighborhood disputes, and that's what I'm looking at. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Great. And so from a policy perspective, though, allowing an applicant to place fill in an open road allowance would be normal procedure, it would be okay. There's no expectation of us to continue to improve it or anything like that.
So like, typically, if there was going to be what we would consider a substantial improvement, they would be required to count that unopened road allowance portion up through the municipal standard. It would be including being paved, and then after 1 year, it may be something that we would look to incorporate within our network. That's not the plan in this regard, at least at this particular time. It's just basically to be able to reach the lot to potentially put some additional material on there.
Is that clear, everything? Clear enough? Yes.
To the mayor for the CO, when it says if they want to build building, are they explaining what kind of building? They're gonna dump or-
Yeah, so there's actually a load or two at the end of Cedar Creek. And that is the material that ministry was contracted regarding. They to inspect it and clean. There were a couple minor items last week in it, but generally speaking, it's maybe rock. There's a bit tree roots and some sort of nothing. Industry at that perspective.
Yep. Okay, further discussion? Anyone? Okay, anything from staff further? No, or call the question? No? Okay. Then I will call the question, all in favor? All right, moving on to item number 10 on the list then, which is correspondence. Councillor Ward, I believe you have correspondence.
Yes, I do. Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Joe Martell. The municipal council receives the correspondence listings for the following dates as previously circulated. April 25th, 2023, May 3rd, 2023, May 10th, 2023, May 17th, 2023, and May 24th, 2023.
Thank you. So the approval of the correspondence. Anyone with any questions or concerns with regarding correspondence? Looking that way, seeing no nods. Okay, so then I'll call the question on correspondence. All in favor? Unanimous. I will say this, it's probably more of a notice and for your motion, but through correspondence, I've asked for Bill 5, which is the Stephen Blay harassment policy. Be brought forward to an upcoming committee meeting for discussion and hopefully that we can pass a resolution supporting stiffer penalties on council people who harass staff. So I've asked for, it's in this correspondence, I've asked for it to be pulled so we can have a further discussion at an upcoming meeting. Municipal disbursements, Councillor Martell.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lonnie Smale, that the municipal council receives the payment of municipal invoices circulated and dated as follows. Report dated April 27th, 2023 .076 for $127,523.02. Report dated April 29th, 2023 .077 $186,367.84. Report dated May 4th, 2023 .080 $55,971.16. Report dated May 4th, 2023 .081 for $15,000. Report dated May 17th, 2023 .086 $112,270.05. Report dated May 25th, 2023 .092 $155,592.56. Report dated May 25th, 2023-093 for $111,638. Report dated May 25th, 2023-094. $80,775.62 for a total of $845,138.25.
Thank you, Councilor Martell. All right, so municipal invoices. So we are receiving the invoices. Are there any questions or concerns with any of the items here?
Not really concerned. It's good to see that we're putting in work on some of the things that we did over the budget. You know, the pool heat has been started. We got the new truck for everybody, and the grants and the docks are in there as well. So good to see you here to make some movement on a lot of these things that are good for the community. So good comments.
Anyone with this end? So you know, head nodding, then I'm gonna call the question then, the municipal council receives the payment of municipal invoices circulated and dated. All in favor? All right, so then we are on to the bylaw portion of the meeting, which is number 12A to amend the building bylaw 2012-05, which is the permit fee schedule. Councillor Martell, I believe you have that.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chris Ward, the bylaw to amend bylaw 2012-05 as amended, being a bylaw respecting permits relating to construction, demolition, change of use, inspections, and privately owned swimming pools. Now be read a third time and finally passed on sealed number 2023.
It was the need for the second reading.
Yes, this shall constitute first and second reading.
There we go. Now we got it. All right, so we're doing first and second reading of a bylaw respecting permits relating to construction, demolition, change of use, inspections of and privately owned swimming pools, and this shall constitute first and second reading. So up for discussion at this point, been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Yes.
I just have a question. When we, think that's the one we had to put, Mr. CEO, duly chaired to the CEO. We had to, put an ad in the paper, for this to increase the building, and obviously no one came forward. Is that way within 20 days?
Yeah, we did.
Nothing.
We can actually. The building department contacted a certain amount of contract, this is not being aware of that. That we have on last month. On the mark. Not from who attended to be.
Good to hear. Yeah, thank you.
Good question. Yeah. All right, comments, questions, anything further in regard to this?
I don't know. Looks like we got all the 115s put in the right place now. So that is good.
All right, I'll call the question on, and this is only first and second, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I'll call the question on first and second reading. All in favor? Unanimous, so there is third reading with this one as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My apologies for the mistake on the earlier one, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chris Ward, the bylaw to amend bylaw 2012-05 as amended, being a bylaw respecting permits relating to construction, demolition, change of use, inspections, and privately owned swimming pools now be read a third time. And finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2023-32.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, calling for third reading. Is there any further discussion on this item before I call the question? Third reading. Going on, it's one twice. Yeah, all right. All in favor? Yes. Then we're moving on to 12B, which is the update of the fence bylaw, and I believe Councillor Smale, you have that item.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Martell. That the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to regulate the erection, height, and maintenance of boundary fences within the township of Riverford Cardinal, and this shall constitute the first and second reading thereof.
Okay, first and second reading on some changes that were left out of when we did our ZBL, correct? In saying that, when we put the fencing bylaw forward, this is a sort of a few changes to that.
Through the surveyor, with respect to fencing, there was a in the previous zoning bylaw. That wasn't carried over. We established sort of a standalone fencing bylaw. And one of the items that was overlooked in creating that was an opportunity for some exemption should like this, there be extenuating circumstances that would person that's just giving an avenue to provide submission to for consideration.
Right. So this bylaw allows for more flexibility than what the current bylaw is indicating.
Correct. If you look at sort of section 3, which is the section
Consideration. Yeah, okay, good. Necessary change. Glad that it's coming forward. This is only first and second reading. Guess I could hold my comments. Comments before we move to third reading or before I call the vote?
Through the mayor to the CAO. I've read a bit of it. I have a couple of questions that seem to concern me for now that I'm moving back in the car. Is a hedge classed as a fence? If it separates two properties? And what was the height restriction on it? It should be. We do have that.
So if you look at section definition 1.2 for the fence, so meaning barrier or structure other than the building, erected at grade and privately on property, which is erected for the purpose of screening, safeguarding, and enclosing property or delineating property lines, but does not include a hedge.
That was my question. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Answers all of the questions? Yes, okay, good. Anyone else? Want to call the question on first and second?
No, I'm just impressed that the CAO knew right about that. So
It's good. Yeah, it's good. The big bucks for it. All right, so call the question on first and second reading, then all in favor. Unanimous, we can go to third reading.
Moved by myself, Mayor, and seconded by the Councilor Joe Martell, that a bylaw to regulate the erection, height, and maintenance of boundary fences within the township of Riverford Cardinal be read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2023-33.
All right, is there further discussion on, before we call the question on third reading? Anyone, Councilor Smale, your concerns have been alleviated, you're good?
For now.
Okay, good. Councilor Martell, any questions? Sound good? Thank you. Deputy?
No, I'm good, thank you.
I mean, I think it's, this used to be, I guess, in the hands of the minor adjustments, committee minor adjustments, and I know that, the rules changed and it has to come back to a committee, so I'm glad we were able to put it to any committee in the whole instead of just always putting it into a council meeting where sometimes the agenda gets quite full, so good change we did there, let's finish that one off, so.
All right, good. So I'll call the question on third reading then. All in favor? All right, so update to, we're into 12C, I believe, which is the update to the reserve and reserve fund policy. And I believe, Councilor Ward, you have that one.
I do. Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Waddy Smale, that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to adopt a reserve and reserve funds policy. This shall constitute a first and second reading thereof.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed with this one. I just want to confirm with staff that the bylaw is virtually identical to what was there, except for on page 173 of 192, which is the insurance reserve. Am I correct in thinking that the policy, other than the new red writing, the policy is exactly the same as what it was before? So really the only thing that we're really changing or discussing today is the change to create that insurance reserve. Okay, so everyone around the table understands that the only change, if you've spent a lot of time reviewing it, that's great. But the only actual change to the reserve policy is the red writing. So I will, where it's first and second reading, I'll open it to questions if anyone has any questions or comments on first and second reading.
No.
Okay, so then I will call the question at first and second reading. All in favor? It is you said aye?
Yeah.
It is unanimous. Then we can proceed to third reading. Who has it? You.
They're not done yet.
Okay, you got one more. You got one more to read.
By myself and seconded by Councillor Wadsmell, that a bylaw to adopt a reserve and reserve fund policy be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2023-.
Very much. All right, further discussion, comments on the insurance, the development of an insurance policy reserve. None there. I think,
Well, so not on that part itself there, but I mean, I must have missed it in the past. I mean, we had lots of documentation when we first came on board, and I mean, I think this document also sets out some good policies on how much we should be putting into each of these reserve funds annually, and it's good to see the plan that's there, and we'll have to keep an eye on that when we come down to the next budget time period as well. So, but a good document, and I'm not around the insurance from there as well. So
yeah.
No, fine.
I do with the there's certainly fluctuations in insurance costs, and there certainly is over the last several years we've seen an increase in insurance claims, and I think that having a reserve to mitigate the effects of those increasing changes only makes sense, and it's good that we're putting this in there. It's unfortunate that we need it, but I think it's also another layer of protection for the ratepayer in terms of tax increases. So well done to staff for incorporating this in there, and I think it's much needed. So call the question then, all in favor? Good. Great, and so we are on to 12D, which is the South Nation Conservation Memorandum of Understanding for Forestry Services. And Deputy Mayor Dillabaugh, you
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Ward that the move would be granted leave to introduce the bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute the memorandum of understanding with South Nation River Conservation Authority for Forestry Service. And this shall constitute the first and second reading thereof.
All right, so first and second reading of the MOU for the South Nation Conservation Authority to take on our forestry services. I'll open it up for discussion before we call the question. So start down. Deputy?
No, that's great.
Chris?
Billy, 5 million.
I guess through the chair, I was just sort of generally speaking, they're just basically managing the forests with the plan was here. So taking down bad areas that are, what would be the goal? I guess what I'm looking at. Just generally, just.
So through the if you remember, council, we had submitted for some public perspective. Relatively quickly. So part of that plan was to look at assessing some of those trees that in parks and in those public areas
but also to assist with some of the briefing up through the municipality. So food will be part of the certification. So it could be base assessments, also one of the components of that also includes planning of some additional. So it's built to keep us on track to get that completed in that tight time. Has to be all completed and submitted by.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions on this one. Is there, so. For this is this an agreement? That's going to encompass the full amount that we received? From. The ministry? So like it was 173K? Something like that? Something.
Yeah, I want to say this should focus the within that. Will ensure.
So my question would be, does this not equate to a sole source contract in any way then? Like, if they're doing a service that's offered by many other operators and it's for a budgeted amount over an unbudgeted amount over 150,000, should it not go out via an RFP or an RFQ that should go out to all available tree companies?
So with respect to that, we'll be having some information, complete that tree assessment portion, but they'll also be one of the investigation of that. So, it's not sole solution, not to segregation population. They're going to assist them. Making sure that's we're on that.
So we're hiring South Nation to source a tree cutter or a tree maintenance person.
We're working with South Nation. Yes, we're going in to so this source.
So not only a tree removal or a tree cleanup, but also a tree planting portion of it as well. Now, is this something that we're gonna see for approval? Or are we tonight approving the use of the 173K?
What you are approving tonight is just the agreement. That really is something is that portion which to turning and removal portions, we would exceed that 50,000.
And so when they are doing those tenders, would all the tree removal be in one tender and all of the planting be in one tender, or are we expecting removal to be in multiple tenders?
So if I had front of the page 24, with respect to schedule renewals and responsibility. The roles and responsibilities of segregation is basically the tree assessments and to assist us with the tree planting. So they will also help us like the development of the tender to get to the other party to pick up the tree assessments thing.
So if I'm just gonna probe just a tiny bit more on this, because I saw this source of funding as a way to achieve a mandate of council. The mandate of council was to do a decent amount of cleanup along the Cardinal Canal area. And areas that have gotten overgrown, not under great tree management. There's a lot of scraggly stuff there on the rocks and things like that. And I think council had identified a willingness through their priorities that this area become one. Now, I know it's a bit of a stretch for this funding to be considered for that. But it is tree management and it is tree planting. And I'm just wondering how much consideration will be given to that mandate, if any, and I understand if it isn't any. That we have to find it from a different source. I get it, but I think in my brain, I was hopeful that we might see something back that sort of helped us continue along with that mandate, and this seemed like an appropriate source of funding for that. So
Yeah, I think for the, through the mayor, in some of the areas of the waterfront, there's no, some of those, occasionally will be assessed. Some of that cleanup, we can incorporate into that. But there are also some other areas within the township, especially in some of the ways that require some ongoing respect.
okay, and this doesn't add money to our roadside brush clearing projects. That's already budgeted to do road widening and road clearances and stuff, right? For the roads, we're not using this money to do that. We're using this for completely separate projects from that.
Yes, it would be, yes, it would either enhance some of those projects where there's the more need to get some of that clean up done. But the end goal is to maximize what we can do within that. And still be able to report on it, that can use that funding. It should be appropriate.
And I certainly would say that I support, tree planting. It wasn't a mandated question during the election, but I certainly wanted to see our tree days. I think it just went by. Our tree days grow and expand and become even more robust. I think they're very well received in the township. I think people generally want more trees planted. So to see that there's $40,000 worth towards tree replacements when we only usually put either $1,000 or $2,000 forward, that's a lot of cash moving forward for trees.
Well, yeah, through the mayor, we may not be looking at simply seedlings.
Yeah, trees.
So.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Okay, and I'm belaboring this a little bit because of, I think that there's a small amount. I'd like just a bit more information. So it is an SNC project. I assume through the MOU that any of the work that they would be doing with these funds are not within the South Nation Conservation Authority lands, that they are within the Edwardsburg Cardinal lands. Is that correct? We're not doing work for any of our neighbors.
So through the mayor, basically Schedule B, the summary of the work schedule is the or part of that schedule that we submitted to the ministry of that. So the South Nation will be working on this project with strictly
Okay, that's good. And I think the last one that I had, and I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this right. They're going to do the tree assessments and the site plans. And they're going to do the tree replacements. But they're going to issue like RFPs or RFQs for companies to come in and do the actual work on their behalf.
What we what we will do is work with this information to develop with respect to those primary areas where we want trimming and
Okay, and last question I've got then is, are we paying South Nation for this? They're part of the process. Are we funding them? I noticed that the amount is only 150, so it leaves 20-some thousand left over. Is that what our fee is to them per minister?
So part of that, sanitation, they're actually performing those street assessments, we will be covering their costs.
Do their procurement policies? Is it our procurement policies or their procurement policies when they issue RFPs and RFQs?
So with respect to policy, that's our.
Okay, yep, that satisfies all the questions. I just think from an openness and transparency, I think that all of those questions have, it's a lot of money. It's an unbudgeted amount of money. It's a grant that came forward for exactly what you're suggesting we use it for. And I think it's great that we're able to have experts that take something off your plate and administer the plan on our behalf. Sorry if I didn't sound supportive of it. I'm quite supportive of it, but I think those questions needed to be answered for those that we will report to an eventuality. So does anyone else have any further questions then on first and second reading?
No, I was glad that I read that exactly that, the first and the third item of the schedule were SNC, and we had the change to the middle of that as far as that was going, so.
It's good, yeah, okay. Yep.
Through the mayor to the CEO. What I'm reading here says. Tree trimming and cleanup, and so who decides what gets done? Is it, how's that decided?
Yeah, so through the mayor would be a combination of, but potentially that some of our staff with sanitation staff would go to different areas, because I anticipate that I've got pretty good knowledge of some of those areas, and we have in the rural portions, especially that I've seen some extensive damage over the last several storms. So and then that'll incorporate building up that sort of RFQ that would specify those particular areas that we the teachers
Thank you.
That's fine. All right, so if there's no further comments or questions, then I'm going to call the question on first and second reading. Seeing no heads or hands, first and second reading question, all in favor? Unanimous, you can proceed to third reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and second by Councilor Ward, bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the memorandum understanding of Seven Nation River Conservation Authority Forestry Service be now read third time, final pass, signed, sealed, delivered, 2023-35.
Comments, questions from further discussion? Hearing none. Before I call the question, I do want to compliment staff. Again, on a file like this one with very short notice, submitted a application under this grant funding. We would not have received this funding at all had staff not have responded as quickly and as well as they did in such a very tight timeline. This will provide us with a good chunk of money to be able to do a lot of good, a lot of work that we would not have been able to do. We just wouldn't have had the funds to do it. So in terms of both cleanup from storm damage and then replenishing stock that have been taken down. So kudos to staff. Thank you to the province for the funding. And let's make sure that we use it to the maximum potential that we can. Well done. All in favor of third reading? So the CAO is now on the hot seat. Councillor Smale, will you bring forward the motion? Got it in that mess, someone.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Bill Martell. The municipal council receives the CO's administrative report.
Perfect. Thank you. The CAO will now give us a 10,000-foot view of his administrative update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the first item that I'll highlight is with respect to the upcoming training for acceptable customer service and workplace violence harassment training. There's 2 dates scheduled, and those calendar invites have been sent out. So the 2 dates are June 19th from around 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then also June 29th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So that will incorporate council, staff, and the upcoming the agricultural leader, the evaluation that is underway at the county. So we have shared that on our website and social media. In order to bring a little bit more awareness, we will be bringing the staff report to the upcoming community development meeting on June 5th. With respect to treasury, the financial return, the treasurer indicated to me earlier today that it's been submitted. The dates of the May 31st timeline, so we think that this will start the finance department. And just a note that the Scotiabank GIC has a maturity date of the end of July, and the treasurer will bring the discussion item for the June 12th meeting in advance of that potential options. With respect to facilities and recreation, the play structure will be started later this week, probably 2 to 3 week time frame. New dock and ramp installed, and still working with the fabricator with respect to the handrails, that system that committee and council has wanted to look into further. Finally, we received when we consider solid spring weather that we can put the hanging baskets and flowers out and not have to worry about bringing them in tonight. So hopefully we're over those cold evenings. Youngstown tennis courts. The paving should be completed in the next couple of weeks. Waterfront canteen will open up on June 17th. 5 months the banner will work on the morning of June 1st, and will be taken down on the afternoon of June 30th. One of the other items that we held last year for the first time was the youth fishing camp. It was quite successful in citations looking at that fish camp again. It started on August 16th and 17th. Hockey contracts that staff is working on contracts for both arenas for the upcoming season, and we should clear the picture of a hot take within the next week or 2. Public works, some roadside brushing is being done in partnership with North Grimble on Total Ranch East. It's part of that first phase of that 2-year project with North Grimble. Staff were busy over the month with a week of waste collection in Cardinal, State of New Hampshire, and Spencerville. And one of the items that is done periodically is the sweeping of the walking path along the waterfront area. Street sweeping will certainly thank the town of Prescott for performing some sweeping in the New Webster Johnstown Industrial Park area. And then later this week, the number of areas the sweeping shall begin. Crack sealing has been completed on 3 roads in particular: Highland Road, to Johnstown, and Bloom Road. Just a note, the public works manager has attended the Ontario Good Roads Association Food Management Course. And staff have completed the book sessions with that truck for the training. With respect to environmental services and operations, we've had the inspection of the intakes at the Cardinal water treatment plant, the Ruler pumping station, and we got the outfall completed at the wastewater treatment plant. Federal Electric completed the semi-annual maintenance on the SCADA, the supervisory filling position portion, which is for the brains of the operation on those facilities. We did have an issue with one of the water treatment plants with the panel failure. We're still obtaining some pricing and getting about now that the temperature is the water temperature is approaching that degree mark. There's been the move to zero possible control, which that is in the chlorinating instead of inside the water treatment plant. It's not at the actual state. Window pumping station upgrades, so I think relatively the upgrade went fairly well. Everything is seems to be working well, so that's it's good to have that project completed. It extended longer than we anticipated. I've seen that part. Fire department, all the council attended the appreciation dinner on Saturday at the Drummond building. It was well received in that regard. With respect to fire prevention, so for refreshment vehicles have been inspected for this upcoming season. There's a couple of important items that are ongoing at a couple of multi properties. I guess a note on other reminder of the Eastern Ontario Firefighter Association Convention coming up on June 16th and 17th, and there was a 30-day prior meeting held on May 16th with participating departments. Also, I believe the mayor gave welcome briefly at the mutual aid meeting that was held on the May 9th. Providing their services. Fire department also working with EMS with respect to the tiers and our response agreements. Thank you to the deputy mayor for the pizza delivery. Hitters, the 72-hour meetings we get well received that will and sort of 7 in St. Edwardsburg. For a great
Peace.
Very happy kids.
I
expect that yes, the winners were respectfully the private leaders in that day where everybody loved
Word on the street was it was extremely well received by all the kids involved. So
excellent.
that's awesome.
Oh, yeah, that's lovely.
And just an upcoming workshop that we want to have some of the hopefully the day that you be able to attend and want that. The emergency management program committee just sort of put on by the OFM with respect to sort of role responsibilities with respect to emergency management. Because with that, it's a sort of refiling the report. With the data there, so, question.
Yeah, just keep it hopefully fairly brief. I will thank the CAO for a fulsome report. It shows exactly, how busy and how crazy it is right now for all staff and for all departments trying to keep up with the amount of work needed to be done as we transition from winter, spring, and into the beginning of summer. So I think my only comment on this is well done to everyone involved. And if I was picking one thing, I'm looking forward to the start of the Giant Tiger play structure and looking forward to seeing that installed. So comments or anything from council to staff, Joe?
I have two through you, Mr. Mayor. The first one on the hockey contrast. Do we have any idea if the junior and senior Rangers are coming back on the Cardinal?
Mayor to Councilor Martel, at this time, they will be playing in Prescott.
Thank you. Second question, through the mayor for the CAO in regards to the pride banners. Do we have any idea what time they are going up? This whole room knows I worked very hard to get out of photo ops, but if there was ever one that would. Inclusiveness is important, and that would be a good opportunity to do a photo op for sure.
First, what time? Gonna be there.
So through the mayor, I don't. All coordinated to
Thursday morning.
perfect. We did it at 3 different locations. It's on one location.
Yeah, that would be great. If anyone is interested in joining me.
Well, I mean, it's funny, I wouldn't mind being at one Spencer, for instance, as well, but I mean, I think I might be able to figure something out there.
You take Johnstown, we'll take Johnstown. I'd like to be in the bucket truck, but maybe I can't.
Yeah, let me know about it.
Well, how did they go up?
Thank you.
Well, gracious, you won't see me up on the ladder.
It won't go in the port.
I will coordinate an email.
Yeah.
Send it to Dave, all copies are on it, indicating the time that will be done.
If I may add just a very tiny statement to this as well, because I won't be able to attend on Thursday morning, but I think it is very obvious that the group at the table here is very supportive of marginalized and not included communities, all communities, including the LGBT plus community. And I think while I don't necessarily believe that these things should be political, I think showing that the leaders of the community support the banners and the banner raising, by being there to do this and have it done, I think it's an important thing for members of council. If they have the time and the opportunity to do this, it would mean a lot to those communities. So I appreciate staff's communication with council and allowing them to be part of that process. Thank you.
That's a university.
Are there further comments or questions in regard?
Through the mayor to the recreation director. When you're putting the flowers there, will there be flowers put on those poles on the highway in front of the shopping mall in Cardinal?
Through the mayor to Smell. In front of the mall?
Well, right along the highway, because that's our only business section they have in the village of
I
Cardinal.
don't.
And they requested
This
that.
went down Dundas and up Bridge. I don't think we have any on the actual county road in front of the mall there. If there are.
Oh, I know you don't have any, they requested them, that's why I brought it up. One thing or two, whenever we were talking about it, I'm asking if they're going to go. Because that's the only business section you have to cover on.
That's a good point.
Like Bridge Street is a residential area, so is Dundas.
So shall we leave that with staff to have a look at and see if there's potential to make a basket or two in that area?
There's just 3 poles.
There is 3 posts.
Yeah.
Maybe move another location to there if possible. Whatever, we'll leave it with you guys, you know best. Further to the CAO's report. Deputy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Went to the fireman's do on Saturday night, enjoyed it very much. Nice to see some old firefighters that I was around, haven't seen in years. It was well done, the chief and the staff deserves a lot of credit for organizing it. Pool heaters, Johnstown. It's starting today, Mike, or do they chair to Mr. Spencer?
Through the chair to Deputy Director Lavelle, the heaters were delivered today. And it's a 2 to 3 day process to do the plumbing and literally initial hookup with the propane. The units are on site in Ottawa, and that's the pools for the Hartford pool. And we're still arranging with Enbridge to get that gas line hooked up there.
Hey, hockey contracts, just another one that duly chair to Mr. Spencer. Juniors, what about seniors? Would they be here in Cardinal this year?
Through the chair and to Deputy Mayor Lavelle. At the present time, when I spoke with the owner of the junior C's and the senior team last week, he indicated that his first initial response would be to play the games president.
And roadside brushing is coming along good. I can't say enough. You got for the staff. Chris pass it on, looking real good. Gord, please pass it on. So I think that is enough for me for tonight. So thank you very much for that, Mr. Mayor.
I guess we all had questions on the hockey contract. And so my first question was, so do we have an actual date that the Prescott Arena is going to go live, or is that it's going to be on for the season? It sounds like.
Through the mayor to Council Ward, I believe their initial start time is going to be the last week of August. If they start the plant up earlier, it takes 2 to 4 weeks for the Jason the first original plan. So Ryan meeting with the town press on Wednesday night, and we're going to be planning to work in partnership with the weather this year to help the solutions get the best ice that they need. Where that we can.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, my concern obviously is our capacity and how we utilize it. I know you guys are all over there trying to plan around that, and it sounds like you're right on top of that as well. So no, that's good.
If I might just ask a question about that, to the director, so that with that meeting, will it involve the CAOs as well?
Meeting on Wednesday?
Yeah,
No, it doesn't.
so just you, another recreation director, and
Myself, the representative, town Prescott, and representatives from our regional organizations.
All right, and so if there are concerns or issues, then we can expect to hear back from that then.
Yeah, I don't think the organizations aren't concerned. I just think it's the best interest of our municipality and the town of Prescott, how they all of the parties together.
Yeah.
They're the ones that use the facilities and they know what they want. And we know what we can offer. I find in the hours. Everybody wants Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and then it's very short, but I'm not even looking for everybody. So I think this is the best thing we can do is to work with the associations and with Prescott. And then we haven't done it before. It's going to be better for both municipalities and all the organizations.
Yeah, and I echo that, and I certainly, I've got in my mayor notes that about the tri-municipal meeting, but it goes back to collaborative efforts if we're going to make the arenas that we have work and satisfy the organizations that are around and keep them full and active and busy. We're going to need that collaboration and not a competition. So I think the closer that we can work together and the more we we work together, the better the outcome's going to be in the long run.
That's why I asked them to be in the first time.
Yeah. So if there's a need for political help along the way, I think you have 5 people here at the table that I strongly support it.
I'm hoping that we don't.
So, yeah,
And then just the last thing I had was just, you know, it was I thought it was a great event on May 27th for the firemen's appreciation dinner, and it was really good to see how much spirit, how much you know, the firemen, fire people, pardon me, also really enjoy that, and they had a good time, and it was really nice to see that we had volunteers help prevent something for volunteers as well. So I think that was just a really really good event to go to, and it was well done.
all right. Further questions or comments on the CAO's administrative report? Hearing none. To the deputy clerk, was it moved and seconded? It was read? It was, okay, so I call the question then? Okay, I'll call the question, all in favor? Good. Alrighty, so council inquiries and notices of, does anyone have an inquiry or notice of motion? Councilor Martel.
I have a notice of motion, reflecting on what the mayor was saying earlier. I think you were reading my notes. Can we get a discussion item on the 12 in regards to canal cleanup and where we can go with that?
I think that there was broad support at the council table for that, so I think I'm chair of that committee, correct? The AO. That is me. So, all right, so I'll ask staff that discussion be added to that agenda then for discussion.
Thank you.
Any other or any further inquiries or notices of motion? Bobby, no, Steve? I'll let go. Okay, Chris. I think I've said it earlier, but I don't know if I need to say it again just for clarity, but I would like the harassment bill, Bill 5, the Stephen Place bill has not passed through provincial parliament as of yet. I am very hopeful that it does. You know, Stephen is a liberal MPP in Ottawa and has moved a private members bill forward on a harassment bill that certainly would hold us to the same standard that our staff and everyone else around us is held to. And I think that's an important bill to have a discussion about. So I'd like that at the most appropriate committee and as soon as it can possibly be dealt with. Okay. Any further? Going once, one place, gone. All right, then we're on to mayor's report. Okay, so mayor, I'm gonna have a few things tonight, actually. We haven't, usually don't, but I will. So we last Thursday night, we had a very successful Prime Municipal Council meeting. It was the first we've met in quite some time. A very fulsome presentation by a group that we hear very often hear very little from, which was the St. Lawrence Development Economic Corridor. And that was presented by both Charlie Mignot and Shelley Bacon, and they certainly did bring us up to speed as all councils, and it was wholesome, and I think it helped people who had some concerns with the economic development corridor and their performance. I think it helped put some of those concerns to bed and certainly showed us where they're kind of fine-tuned their focus. So we had that last Thursday. Many other things were discussed: recreation and collaborative efforts, bed and breakfasts, and we expect to see some reports or some discussion items back at future council meetings so that we can move things along. I think we also mentioned that in an attempt to move things along a tiny bit quicker, that the mayor or the deputy mayor, along with the CAO, the CAOs plural, could possibly have discussions to try to come to some sort of pre-agreements before our next tri-municipal meeting, so that when we get to that meeting, that we would actually be able to endorse a few of these things and have some resolution. So instead of kicking the can, trying to actually get things actually rolling and get some production. The deputy mayor and myself, on Saturday quite enjoyed the Spencerville Mill canoe and kayak poker run, which I am very happy and excited to say had over 262 registered voters. I don't know if there were more than that. Many volunteers, many people helping. I don't know what the man's name, the first guy who helped 262 people get into the water, but he never left the water. He was in the water the whole time helping people into their kayaks, and did an absolute fantastic job doing that. I certainly worked super hard, and I saw the deputy standing around a lot in the parking lot. I'm just teasing you. You worked your butt off while I floated down the river. It's great. It was great. I will say this though, this is a bit of a plug. Kayaking and canoeing and non-motorized boating is certainly huge in our area. I know we've talked about accessible docking and kayak launches in the past, and I think that this event outlines a need, especially when you're involved in it and you see what people come to you time and time again and tell you we need. There certainly is a need for better facilities when it comes to launching. So something hopefully we'll see in the future. I will note that one thing that I loved and absolutely thought was fantastic, that Spencerville was at a fever pitch. It was very, very, very busy this weekend. I'm sure that all businesses that were open saw nothing but success this weekend. So that's good. I guess further to that, it's obvious that there's a discussion needed. I guess I was saying that earlier on how to support our growing and paddling community. I didn't know. I'll let you add it. I can add it as mine. I didn't even know that existed. So yesterday I was invited to be a judge for Poutine Fest in Prescott, another very smallish festival that brought in enormous numbers to the town of Prescott. Certainly some fantastic food and a great economic impact for the village of Prescott. And I'd like to say, well done for their economic development team in going out and bringing that festival to Prescott. It's bang up. It was great. There is a Spencerville Mill golf tournament coming up on June the 10th. And if members of council and any of our community that happen to be listening, haven't signed up for the Spencerville Mill golf tournament on June the 10th, I encourage them to do so. This Saturday, I believe, which is June the 3rd, is sort of a Sierra Community Day with community yard sale, and they're going to celebrate the opening of the dog park. So I think if there are members of the community, members of council who want to attend, good day to attend. I think June 10th is also the Cardinal Community Yard Sale, and all those proceeds go to the festival committee. This part of the mayor's report is a bit of a question to the CAO. And it's a discussion that we've had recently, which were submissions for AMO, which is coming up in August. I know, and I bring it out in a mayor's report because if we wait too long, we won't be able to request delegations, and it would be nice to have feedback from fellow members of council. A, if they want to attend AMO, and B, if they see fit or want to make any delegations on anything, or they believe that there's any delegations that we need to be making to AMO, i.e. Natural gas going into the port to help support, the grain dryer, or the continued natural gas expansion to homes that don't have it, both in Spencerville and in the Cardinal area. So if anybody can come up with any ideas that they want to have for submissions, or if they want to attend, I suggest that they get in touch with either the CAO or the clerks, and we'll get some travel arrangements set up. It is in August, and I will be attending that one. And last but not least, an absolute applause to the great women and men, Edwardsburg Cardinal finest, that help keep our community safe. The firefighter appreciation dinner and the long-term service awards It was great to see, some of the old timers there. Some of the, I guess I have to say, long-term serving members like Mark Bruce at 30 years who has been serving. We certainly grew up a little bit together and makes me start to feel that I might be getting a tiny bit old when I see that he's getting a 30-year service award. So fantastic to Mark and to the other folks that earned awards and certainly to the new recruits and I'd be remiss without thanking the Ag Society for putting on a fantastic turkey dinner. So well done. It's been a busy, and I know I missed a whole bunch of stuff. I know Chris has gotten one written here that he wants to add as well. It's been a busy couple of weeks, and I know the deputy can probably add 5 or 6 as well that he's attended on my behalf. So.
And that's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for that introduction. I decided instead of trying to figure out how to row myself down a river, I'd be a great grandpa and had my grandkids down for inflatable day at the ingredient center on Saturday, and it was a great event. There was lots of fun for the kids to have, and it was just staff did a really good job of executing that and made it a really nice presented location. I mean, it was just really appreciated the fact that they went through all that effort to put that together, and and I mean, look, you should have more people there possibly, but I think that's something where we got to figure out as a group. I wish we get the word out better, because I did have a lot of people who found it out after the fact who were too bad I didn't know about it, unfortunately, but we can work on that. It was just great to see the effort. It's really appreciated. So thanks staff for doing such a great job, and it was well done.
Okay, and if there are no further additions to the mayor's report, then that'll be the mayor's report.
I'm gonna accept your.
Yeah, you have to read it.
Moved by myself, and seconded by Council Ward, municipality council sees the mayor's report as presented.
Thank you. All in favor?
Next. I won't do another one for 3 months. I don't.
All right. So, question period. We had a full house earlier at 6 o'clock, but we do not have anyone left at 8:45. So, there is nobody online. There were no submitted questions from media or other. So we have no one then for question period. So then I have someone who has a motion to proceed into closed session. Can you read that?
Yes, I can. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Whitey Smail. The municipal council proceeds into closed session at 8:46 PM in order to address a matter pertaining to section 239 B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically CAO, fire department and township workplace assessments, and B, section 239 C, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, specifically minutes of closed session dated March 27th, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. So everybody understands we're proceeding into closed session. I will call, we'll wait till I call the question. I will call the question. All in favor? Unanimous. We are in closed session. We'll call for 5 or 7 minute break. No, it's gotta go back to Joe.
Moved by myself and seconded. We're good?
Take two.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Waddy Snail that the closed session meeting of municipal council does now adjourn and the open meeting does now resume at 10:46 PM.
Thank you, Counselor Ward. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Good. So reporting out of closed session. First, I will report that we needed due to time and bylaw meetings ending at 10 o'clock at 9:58. There was a motion to extend our meeting past the deadline. We needed to stay in closed for a bit longer, though that will be included in the minutes of our next meeting. We also under section 239 to be discuss personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local workplace employees, specifically CEO, fire department, and township workplace assessment and review, and we gave direction to the CAO. We reviewed under section 239(2)(c), proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, specifically reviewed the minutes of closed session dated March 29th, 2023. And Councillor Joe Martell, I believe you have that item.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chris Ward, the municipal council received and approved the closed session minutes of council dated March 27th, 2023.
Yeah. All in favor? Good. Go backwards. And so I've already reported out of closed session. So we will deal with number 19, which is our confirmation bylaw. And I believe Councillor Smale, you have the confirmation bylaw.
1 second here, Worship.
No problem.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Joe Martell. That a bylaw to adopt, confirm, ratify matters dealt with the resolution be now passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2023-36.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smale. I understand that at 10:48 at night, it becomes difficult to find all of these papers. So I will call the question on the confirmation bylaw. All in favor? Aye. And so well too. And finally, unless anybody wants to stay a little bit longer, adjournment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Ward, the municipality council does now adjourn at 10:48.
Thank you, sir. Non-debatable motion. I'll have to call the question. All in favor? We are adjourned. Good up until it's closed.
You think, well,
I think I could do that last part. Let's see what you do.
Take 4. If only we could mute you.
what a rip off that game was, eh?